December 16, 1944. 5:30 a.m. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The fog is so thick you can taste it. It is a freezing, wet blanket that clings to the pine trees, muffling the world in a heavy, white silence. Inside a foxhole on the Ghost Front, a 19-year-old American private is trying to light a cigarette with numb, frostbitten fingers. He hasn't seen a German in weeks. Intelligence says the Wehrmacht is finished, broken, licking its wounds back in the fatherland. This sector is supposed to be a rest home. Then the ground begins to vibrate. It starts as a low tremor in the soles of your boots. Then the coffee in your tin cup ripples. Then the mist ahead of you tears open. Emerging from the white void are the shapes of monsters. King tigers, panthers, the elite 6th Panzer Army. They aren't dead. They are roaring forward with a ferocity that the Allies thought was impossible. Within hours, the American line shatters. Panic spreads like a virus. It is the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last, desperate gamble to split the Allied armies and drive them into the sea. In the center of this maelstrom sits the town of Bastogne. It is a critical road junction, a hub where 7 highways meet. Whoever holds Bastogne holds the keys to the Ardennes. And right now, the 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, are racing to get there before the Germans do. By December 19th, the trap snaps shut. The 101st is surrounded. They are cut off from supply lines. They have no winter clothing. They are running low on ammunition. And the temperature is dropping to 0. Inside the perimeter, the paratroopers dig into the frozen earth. They listen to the German loudspeakers in the distance promising them warm food and safety if they surrender. They listen to the screech of screaming Memise, German Nebelwerfer rockets, pounding their lines. They know they are alone. But 100 miles away in a drafty stone barracks in Verdun, the fate of those men is being decided in a room thick with cigar smoke and tension. Supreme Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower has summoned his generals. The mood is grim. The map on the wall is a disaster, a massive red bulge pushing deep into American lines. General Omar Bradley sits at the table. He is the GI's general, steady, cautious, a man of logistics and numbers. He looks at the map and sees a catastrophe. He knows that moving an army takes weeks. He knows that turning a corps around in the middle of winter on icy roads is a logistical nightmare. Bradley is worried. He believes the 101st is doomed. He believes the German offensive cannot be stopped without a massive, slow reorganization. But sitting across from him is a man who hates defense. A man wearing polished cavalry boots and a scowl. General Georges Patton. Eisenhower turns to Patton. He asks the question that will define the rest of the war. George, I want you to go to Luxembourg and take charge. When can you start? The room goes quiet. The other generals are doing the math in their heads. To attack the southern flank of the German Bulge, Patton would have to disengage his 3rd Army from its current fight in the Saar, rotate it 90 degrees north, and march 80 miles through a blizzard. It is a maneuver that should take 2 weeks. Patton stands up. He looks at Eisenhower, then he looks at Bradley. His eyes are gleaming with a terrifying confidence. I can attack on the morning of December 22nd, Patton says. It has been less than 48 hours since the Germans attacked. December 22nd is only 3 days away. A ripple of disbelief goes through the room. A British officer coughs. Eisenhower frowns, thinking Patton is grandstanding again. Don't be fatuous, George, Eisenhower snaps. If you try to go that early, you won't have all your men. You'll go piecemeal. Bradley looks at his old friend Patton. He respects him, but he thinks this is madness. You cannot pivot 250,000 men, thousands of tanks, and tons of supplies in 3 days. It is a logistical impossibility. It is a lie born of arrogance. But Patton isn't lying. He leans over the map, tapping the city of Bastogne with a gloved finger. I'm not boasting, he growls. I've already issued the orders. Bradley stares at him. He realizes that while the rest of them were panic-stricken by the German offensive, Patton had already stopped his army. He had already turned them around. He was already moving. But saying it is one thing. Doing it, in the worst winter Europe has seen in 30 years, is another. Patton has promised a miracle. Now he has to deliver it. And if he fails, the 101st Airborne will be buried under the snows of Belgium. December 20th, 1944. The roads leading to Luxembourg. Military history is full of great charges. The charge of the Light Brigade. The charge at Gettysburg. But what is happening right now on the icy roads of France is not a charge of cavalry. It is a charge of logistics. General Bradley watches the reports coming in, and he shakes his head in disbelief. He calls it the most brilliant execution of a tactical maneuver in our history. To understand why, you have to visualize the map. An army is a beast with a massive tail, miles of supply trucks, fuel tankers, and artillery caissons. Usually, to turn an army 90 degrees, you have to pull them back, reorganize, and then march. It takes weeks. Patton is doing it while fighting. He is taking 3 divisions, the 4th Armored, the 26th Infantry, and the 80th Infantry, and literally spinning them in place. On the ground, it is a symphony of controlled chaos. The roads are sheets of black ice. Trucks are sliding into ditches. Sergeants are screaming at drivers to keep moving, keep the interval, keep the wheels turning. Patton issues an order that terrifies his subordinates: drive with your lights on. In a war where a single cigarette can draw a sniper's bullet, driving a convoy with headlights blazing is suicide. But Patton knows he is racing the clock. He needs speed more than he needs concealment. 133,000 vehicles are moving through the blizzard. It is a river of steel flowing north. Inside the staff cars, the radios are buzzing. Patton isn't sleeping. He is everywhere. He is standing at intersections directing traffic with a cigar in his mouth. He is kicking broken-down trucks off the road with his own Jeep. He is driving his men with a relentless, terrifying energy. But there is one enemy Patton cannot shout at: the weather. The snow is still falling. The fog is grounding the Allied Air Force. Without air cover, Patton's tanks are blind and the Germans are invisible. So, in one of the most famous moments of the war, Patton turns to religion. He summons his chaplain, Colonel James O'Neill. "Chaplain," Patton demands, "I want you to publish a prayer for good weather. I'm tired of these soldiers having to fight mud and floods as well as Germans. See if we can't get God to work on our side." The chaplain writes the prayer. It is printed on thousands of index cards and handed out to the freezing men. They read it in their foxholes. They read it in the turrets of their Shermans. "Almighty and most merciful Father, we humbly beseech Thee, restrain these immoderate rains, grant us fair weather for battle." Bradley, waiting at SHEF headquarters, is skeptical. He knows the German advance is slowing, but Bastogne is still a besieged island. The 101st is reporting they have enough ammo for maybe 24 hours. Then, on the morning of December 23rd, the miracle happens. The temperature drops. The moisture freezes out of the air. And for the first time in weeks, the sun breaks through the Ardennes gloom. The sky turns a brilliant, hard blue. And with the clear sky comes the thunder. Thousands of C-47 transport planes fill the horizon, dropping pallets of ammunition and medical supplies into Bastogne. P-47 Thunderbolts dive out of the sun, smashing the German columns that are encircling the paratroopers. Patton looks up at the sky from his command post. He doesn't smile. He just nods. "God has joined the Third Army," he reportedly quips. But divine intervention is only the prelude. The weather has cleared the way for the hammer. Leading the charge is the 4th Armored Division, Patton's favorite unit, the only division in the U.S. Army that has no motto because, as they say, they don't need one. They hit the German southern flank with the force of a freight train. The Germans are caught completely off guard. They thought Patton was still 100 miles away in the Saar. They thought they had weeks. Instead, they look up and see a wall of American Sherman tanks cresting the ridge, engines screaming, supported by angry swarms of fighter bombers. The relief force is coming. But between Patton and the 101st lies the Fire Brigade of the German Army, a desperate defensive line determined to keep the trap shut. And as the tanks of the 4th Armored slam into the village of Assenois, just miles from Bastogne, the fighting turns from a maneuver into a brawl. December 26, 1944. 16:45 p.m. The village of Assenois, south of Bastogne. Inside the perimeter of Bastogne, the 101st Airborne is running on fumes. They have held the line for 7 days. They have repelled panzers with bazookas and infantry charges with bayonets. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, the man who famously replied, "Nuts," to the German demand for surrender, is pacing in his headquarters. He knows the airdrops have helped, but they aren't enough. The Germans are regrouping for a massive, coordinated annihilation attack. If the relief column doesn't break through today, the Screaming Eagles will be overrun. 3 miles south, Lieutenant Charles Boggess of the 4th Armored Division is peering through the periscope of his Sherman jumbo tank, named Cobra King. He is the tip of Patton's spear. Between him and the paratroopers lies the village of Assenois. It is a fortress of burning buildings and dug-in German paratroopers, the Fallschirmjäger. These are the best infantry Germany has left. They are fighting with the desperation of men who know that if they lose this village, the siege is broken. Boggess gets the order. Go. Don't stop for anything. Cobra King roars forward. It isn't a tactical advance, it is a rampage. Bogus orders his gunner to fire the 75mm cannon continuously. He orders his driver to run over anything that gets in the way. They hit the village at full speed. The street is a tunnel of fire. German soldiers fire Panzerfausts from cellar windows. Machine gun bullets spark off the jumbo's heavy armor. Bogus doesn't slow down. He crushes a German half-track. He blasts a machine gun nest. Behind him, the rest of Team Cherry, light tanks and half-tracks, are fighting for their lives to keep the corridor open. It is brutal, close-quarters combat. Americans are throwing grenades out of moving vehicles. Germans are climbing onto the tanks. But Cobra King punches through. Suddenly the buildings end. The noise of the village fades behind them. Ahead, there is only a snowy field and a line of foxholes in the tree line. Bogus stops the tank. He pops the hatch. He stands up, his hand on his .45 pistol, unsure if the men in the tree line are friends or enemies. They are wearing OD green, but Germans have been known to wear captured uniforms. A figure rises from a foxhole. It is a bedraggled, bearded scarecrow of a man. Bogus yells out, "Come here." This is the 4th Armored. The figure doesn't move. He raises his rifle. "I'm Lieutenant Webster of the 101st Airborne. Whose side are you on?" It is the most American standoff in history. Two exhausted men, too tired to trust, staring at each other over a field of snow. Then Bogus smiles. He waves a hand. The tension breaks. The paratrooper lowers his rifle and walks forward. He reaches up and shakes the hand of the tanker. It is 4:50 p.m. The siege of Bastogne is broken. The corridor is only a few hundred yards wide, a straw through which supplies and ambulances must pass. It is under constant artillery fire. It is fragile, but it is open. Back at headquarters, the radio operator receives the message. 3 words that change the course of the battle. Link up established. The news travels up the chain of command like an electric shock. It goes from the tank commander to the division, from the division to corps, and finally to General George Patton. He has done it. He has moved an army in 3 days. He has marched through a blizzard. He has smashed the flank of the German offensive. And he has kept his promise. December 27, 1944. SAGF headquarters, Versailles. The news hits the command center like a physical wave of relief. The red circle on the map around Bastogne is no longer a circle. It has a stem. The 101st is reconnected to the world. General Omar Bradley stands before the situation map. He is a man who rarely shows emotion. He is the schoolteacher of the army, the man of logic who balances the books of war. 4 days he has worried that Patton's boast was just that, a boast. He feared that Patton would get bogged down in the snow, that the 4th Armored would be cut off, and that the disaster would double in size. But as he traces the blue line of the 3rd Army punching vertically through the German flank, Bradley realizes he is looking at a masterpiece. He turns to his staff. He doesn't cheer. He simply states a fact that will go down in military history. This is one of the most brilliant performances by any commander on any side in this war. It is the ultimate validation. The cautious professional is forced to bow to the reckless gambler. Patton didn't just move men. He moved the entire center of gravity of the war. But back in Bastogne, the reception is complicated. As Patton rolls into the town a few days later, expecting a hero's welcome, he finds something else. He finds the 101st Airborne. The paratroopers are haggard. They are unshaven. They are wearing bedsheets for camouflage and have frozen blood on their uniforms. But they are proud. When Patton's tanks rolled in, the Screaming Eagles didn't cheer. They looked at the tankers and cracked jokes. "Glad to see you," one paratrooper famously quipped to a tanker. "Do you have any extra ammo? We're running low on targets." To this day, if you ask a veteran of the 101st, they will tell you through gritted teeth, "Patton didn't save us. We were killing Germans just fine. He just finally caught up." But the strategic reality is undeniable. Without Patton's pivot, the 101st would have eventually run out of bullets. Without the corridor, the wounded would have died. Patton knows this. He pins the Distinguished Service Cross on General McAuliffe. He calls the 101st, "the bravest men I have ever known." But as the new year dawns, the Battle of the Bulge shifts. The Germans have spent their last reserve. They have thrown their best panzer divisions against the wall of Bastogne, and they have shattered. The Bulge is no longer a threat. It is a killing jar. And Patton is screwing on the lid. January 1945. The road to the Rhine. The snow is finally beginning to melt. The roads are turning to slush. The wreckage of the German 6th Panzer Army litters the ditches, King Tigers abandoned for lack of fuel, Panthers destroyed by air power. General Patton sits in the back of his jeep, his bull terrier Willie beside him. He is reading a report. The Third Army has relieved Bastogne, crossed the Cher River, and is now grinding toward the German border. He takes out a small, crumpled index card from his pocket. It is the prayer for fair weather. He looks at the sky. It is clear. The American Air Force is overhead, silver wings flashing in the sun, hammering the retreating German columns. Patton was a complicated man. He was arrogant, profane, and difficult. But in that 1 week in December 1944, he did what no other general could do. He didn't just fight the Germans, he fought the map, the weather, and the physics of logistics. And he won. He put 10,000 vehicles on the road in 48 hours. He marched an army through a blizzard. He saved the 101st Airborne whether they wanted to admit it or not. As the jeep accelerates toward the Rhine, leaving the dark forests of the Ardennes behind, Patton lights a fresh cigar. The winter of ghosts is over. The road to the heart of Germany is open. And George S. Patton is driving.